Hey, Pro Organizers, it's your co-host, Melissa Klug. Welcome to a brand new year, 2022. When I say it, it just sounds like really far in the future for some reason. I don't know why I didn't feel that way about 2021, but I don't know. Also, 2022, it's just a lot of T's. So I'm having a hard time saying 2022 so many times. But the point is, it is a new year, and I am so thrilled to be back with you on the podcast, and so thrilled that we are going to be bringing you tons of content this year for starting or growing your professional organizing business. And I know I'm like totally energized by the start of the year. In my old job, I've written about this a couple places recently, but I used to dread going back the first day of the year. And instead, when I started my organizing business and started working here at Pro Organizer Studio, I genuinely love getting up every day. I don't mean to sound like a nerd, but I do. I love my job jobs, I should say. And I am thrilled that I am able to today bring you this conversation that Jen and I had. When I was visiting Jen, we did a Facebook Live Ask Us Anything in our Inspired Organizer group, and we decided that we wanted to open things up and give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes of what happens in our Inspired Organizer community. I cannot say enough good things about this group of women. It is seriously the most supportive community. We have over 600 people from all around the world, and it's so additive to everybody's business. This group is so supportive, truly believes in collaboration over competition. We give advice, we cheerlead when things are challenging, and we celebrate success when something goes great. We have had so many people have huge successes last year, from building a team to growing their revenue over 6 figures to just starting their business from scratch and starting a side hustle. Some people who have quit their full-time jobs. I mean, we just have so many different people and so many different stages of business in our community. There is a place for everyone. This podcast only has part of our conversation. You will get a little peek into what it's like to be on these private coaching calls. This conversation ranges from 2022 planning to what's happening in the industry to how do you really change your mindset when you change from a 9-to-5 job to having your own business, all sorts of things. We are excited to bring you this kind of sneak peek. We are thrilled to be back with you. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate the energy and the excitement that you are bringing into the organizing industry, and we are ready to get started on a great year with you. Let's get going.
You're listening to the Pro Organizer Studio podcast with Melissa Klug and Jen Obermeier. Thank you so much for joining in. Our mission is to broaden the horizons of savvy business women in the organizing industry by instilling confidence and inspiring authenticity. You'll gain new insight into strategies designed specifically for professional organizers. So now, let's get started. I'm so blessed to have Melissa in the house. Happy to be with me. We're doing some planning for 2022 and lots of good things happening. Sorry I'm making you work so much, but then you get to be on vacation. It's all right. So Melissa got some questions again for our Ask Us Anything, but we want to maybe chit chat a little bit more about 2022, preparation-ish, things that people are probably thinking about at the end of the year, things that are on your mind for the end of your year and the beginning of next year. We're just kind of here to socialize and sort of wrap up and think about what might be on your plate for January in terms of marketing, launching your business, doing something new with your business. You know, that whole New Year, New Me, New Year's resolution is a great time for people to be like, I'm going to call a professional organizer. Yes. Don't want to live like this anymore.
I'm very big on when people say New Year, New You. For my own personal, I'm like, hey, how come my current me is not good enough? So also I try to, for myself, I try to say I am enough, but the positive thing of when people do have that mindset is 100% of the time they are thinking about how to improve themselves, and a lot of times that's their house. Yes, because as we have said a million times before, our environment is a really big deal. You guys know that. We know that. And even being organizers, you still have to kind of take a step back sometimes and be like, wait, my own self and life has to be organized enough
to be able to do this for other people. So it's not easy work, you know. It's something that I really think, you know, staying ahead of in terms of not just your schedule, but like your own desk and your own papers and your own self-care, like it cannot pile up. So I do hope that on your list of priorities for the coming year, number one is taking care of you, because if you are your home without you, you don't have a business. So that's really important.
Yeah. Well, and I got a message today from someone in our group who was struggling a little bit with a client that she had gone to and had like really taken on that client's emotion and said like she's a newer organizer and she's like, hey, is this common? Does this happen? I'm like, yes, absolutely it happens. And so the key thing is with what we do, everybody has a different level of taking on that emotion or taking on those feelings. But if you are a person who takes on those client feelings a lot or environment or really struggles after like to decompress after a session, you have to be even more careful about protecting yourself.
So true. I had an organizer I was coaching one time called that like a client hangover. Oh, I like that. That you sort of have to like, you know, have to plan some time for yourself, especially if you are more sensitive or you carry that emotion more strongly to like let yourself detox and turn keep your feet off a little bit.
Yeah. Sometimes with clients, I'm able to just say like when I leave their house, I'm done with that. Like I have to shut it down because otherwise I don't want it to start to affect my work. That's if you know how you are with a certain client, finding those self-care things to do, whether it's something simple or whether it's something like more complex, you have to take care of yourself because you can't take care of your clients.
Comments, something that when you look back over your year, you think if I would have just done this one little thing, then I might not have been so stressed. And I will tell you that I ask myself this like almost every year, and it's just put the phone away and go to bed. Yeah, like I tell myself this all the time, and sometimes when we talk about New Year's resolutions and you're saying about like the way that I am is good enough, it's like the smallest, tiniest tweak just to take better care of myself would have had like massive impact. Like it's like really high leverage because it's like an everyday and little habits. That's something that I think the more that we can bring awareness to for ourselves, we are not just better at serving other people, but like better at balancing everything that goes into running a business by yourself. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot.
Well, and I love that because I think I've talked about this before. I'm really bad at setting boundaries with clients in particular. And I had 2 clients this weekend that were like 2 organizing clients that were text bombing me. And I just really politely was like, hey, I will totally get back to you on Monday because I'm trying to be better about, I think with our businesses, it is incredibly easy to feel like you have to be on 24/7 and to feel like I have to respond to a client, even if it's 7:00 on a Saturday night and I'm hanging out on the couch watching TV and you don't. And so I think putting the phone down or just saying like, I'm not going to respond to text messages. I'm not going to respond to business messages until the next day, whatever works for you. Like I've had to remind myself of that too.
Yeah, that is so true.
And you've got to set those boundaries. And but I'm talking to myself, right?
It's very good.
So, and then, you know, if you've got those clients too, where you kind of cross the boundary a little bit of friend versus client, that gets a little bit harder. That was one of my text bombs this weekend with someone who is a friend and a client, but she was texting me about client-y things.
Yes.
And so having to kind of take a break from that.
Yeah.
For me is really.
Yeah. That's huge. That's huge.
But it's hard.
No. And this is a never ending process. So it's not like don't think to yourself, well, there are other organizers out there who have this all figured out and perfectly all the time. Just, you know, walk in, be amazing, walk out, turn it off. Like they're never just organized and they have everything together. That person doesn't exist. So if you're doing that to yourself and you're telling yourself that you're failing because those people exist, it is not true. And we would know because they tell us all of their secrets.
Yeah.
Right?
We don't. Yeah. We don't know where all of the dirty laundry is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Related figuratively.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're here to tell you it's all good.
I saw a thing the other day that was like, none of us know what we're doing. We're all like we're all faking it basically. And I love that was like the entirety of it was an organizing thing. And I'm just like, no, that's true.
Yeah.
No, because whenever you go to someone and you're like, oh my gosh, that person has them all together. No, they have stuff that's true.
Well, yeah. And it's like they have also trial and errored their way to get to wherever they are.
Yeah. So you can just I was feeling personally attacked when I said that you have to make sure that your stuff is organized because I just was rifling through my purse or something like right before we started this. And I'm like, oh,
I not be fitting of a professional organizer was organized enough. But Melissa, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Do you see a 2022 trend in the organizing world? And if so, what is it?
Yeah. So I'm a business nerd unapologetically. I love trying to bring some like economics and finance into the world of professional organizing because I spent a lot of time in that kind of a world. But what I will tell you is that so some of the measures that you might hear about on the news that you're like, well, I don't know, I don't want to listen to that. Like there are really good economic trends. So despite the world being kind of a disaster, like, and COVID still being very much a thing, there is still, the economy is still really good. And the economy specifically for service-based industries like ours, there might be a slowdown in 2022, but the important thing is the economy now is still really good. The stock market is still really good. So even though there are some challenges out in the world, it is still a really good time to have a service-based business. And especially as we go into 2022 when people are changing the demographics of work are changing probably forever. I mean, the number, by the way, just my husband still works at home, right? Like, yeah. And maybe forever. It seems like he's never going back to work. But a lot of my friends that are in businesses that have never been work at home businesses, they have very much been, you come to the office, are now super flexible about people are working at home 3 days a week, or maybe they're working at home full time, or they are allowed to make their own schedules and make their own decisions. So some of the permanent changes that we have seen from COVID affect home life. Mm-hmm. And so as much as possible, as much as you can start to create a business and services that thrive on, I want to make your home life, so your home and your home work life more sustainable. People are willing to pay for that. People are willing to pay for that peace of mind, the self-care, all of that. So just know that service businesses are still really important. You can also look at just the trends of, I don't know if you guys have tried to hire a handyman lately, like either for yourself or for clients. It's really hard. Those people are booked solid. And so just, again, knowing people are spending money in their homes, and that's something that you can capitalize on. So that's what I would say. Be confident. People are still spending money on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they don't have time for all that.
They do not have time for it.
So in 2022, people will still be buying too much stuff and still not have enough time to deal with everything. So it's the same trend as always. It's like every other season when the magazines put out the diet stuff, because they're like, this is a forever.
It's always going to happen in January. Yeah. The other thing I will tell you too is there is actual scientific research about brain fatigue and how we physically feel because of the last 2 years of stress in our lives. And even if COVID has not affected you personally, it still has affected us as the whole world, right? And so there is stress about things are different. You can't find things on the shelves. Like I went to a store the other day and I'm like, where's all the blah, blah, blah? Like the supply chain stuff is all of this stress that we're not used to, right? And so that's another sign that people want that calm, that good feeling at their home, and they're willing to pay for that.
Since, working from home became more of a thing in the last year, is that people probably at first were just like making do with the corner in the living room or whatever. But now that it's becoming like that, and Melissa was saying, her husband was like, this will be just a few weeks. It'll be like, I will be out of here in 2 weeks. People at first weren't really preparing and creating like these are dedicated spaces and places for kids to do virtual school. It was like, this will just be for a couple months. Well, now the people who were never used to working from home before, who now we're like almost 2 years into this, and it's like, I'm home all the time. I'm home. I go out and do errands, and then I still come back home. They don't have, people don't realize the effect that it has to, literally kind of have that tab open in their brain about I should be working, or could be working, or could be checking email, like the computer is sitting right there in the family room or whatever. Those types of things in the home environment, you really do, I mean, again, this is my personal opinion, but like a home really does have to have specific space carved out for peace and restoration. Now, what that means is, logically speaking, if you're working from home, you need to have that space carved out with ideally a door that you can close, because it does do something psychologically in your environment for you to be able to put a bookend on your time, that where you're like, all right, now I'm shutting that off. I'm leaving the office and now I'm spending time with family, or I'm able to cook dinner because I don't have all my work set out here. Like, I think that's an important thing to keep talking about in your personal conversations, in your marketing, or whatever, ways to make people consider how organizing really is not just about organizing, but it's about creating dedicated spaces so that we can mentally like deal with all the things. Melissa's kids just came back to virtual school for a little while because of staff shortages. That's another thing that I think is going to continue to have an impact is it won't just be about, you know, like we're saying, the supply chain stuff and everything, there are not enough people to do the work of all the things. And so that stress, clutter is timeless, stress is forever. Yes. Well, like diamonds, but you know what I'm saying? Like as long as people have stress, like the stuff will pile up, and that's something that you can physically come and do something about it. It's going to bring relief to people. And so that's the 2022 trend is just more stress.
Well, and I will tell you, just based on my experience working with clients, some clients are still working in, I would call them very temporary work situations. Like they're acting like it's March 2020.
Yeah.
And they're still working at the kitchen table. And so if you can bring some of your resources, one of the things I see all the time, and we talk about this in organizing essentials too, because I'm very big on this, is sometimes people don't see their own spaces well. So I turned my dining room, my formal dining room, which we use once a year, into my office. And some people would be like, well, no, it's a dining room. Well, this doesn't have to be a dining room. Or I have a client in a very small house. So some houses in Minneapolis are like, they're they're tiny, chunky rooms. And she has this guest room downstairs that is lovely. I'm like, well, how often do you have guests? Once a year.
It's repurposed.
Once a year. Repurpose that room into your office. And yeah, like if you have a guest, great. We're going to get a great air mattress. They're going to love that room. But like use that space and your client can't see that sometimes.
They can't. That's so funny because like I like the fact that you didn't just make the dining room your office. Like it's decorated like your office. It is dedicated as your office. And so like that for you has to really have an impact on feeling like, hey, this is my space. This is where I'm productive. I enjoy sitting down here to work. I mean, that's making a huge impact on your every single day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in 2022, don't think that your clients have figured out where they're working. A lot of them have not. So
like making space for hobbies too. It's not just about work, but hey, you know, is it convenient to get all of your sewing stuff out of like a trunk that you've stuffed it down in? Ask me how I know this. No, it's not convenient and it's not fun.
Right.
But like if I had dedicated space for that, then I can sit down and do it and work on it, and it can be part of my self-care because it's just something that I do for fun. Yeah. And I think reminding clients too that that's important. Like, hey, how can we make this work for you? The things that are going to bring you enjoyment and restoration are critical. It's not just all about, you know, the family and the kids and schedules.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the question that we got. She was asking about what is the transition from a 9-to-5 mentality to running your own business alone. So I call it moving from 9 to 5 to 24/7. That's exactly as I just got done talking about people texting Saturday night.
And you know what too? I mean, I think we could have an entire podcast topic about just this. I think because I love the fact that she included, I'm saying from your notes, she included that word alone. Because the thing about being in a 9-to-5 corporate world type of environment is you're so used to having other people around you. You know what I mean? Like a team approach. There has to be a committee and a meeting for everything. And in some ways that is fun.
And it can be comforting.
Comfort. But it makes life go real slow. And we all know that some coworkers are amazing and you love them like family, and other ways you want to just yeet, as the kids say.
Way to bring in the kid language.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I'm feeling good. So this is actually like multiple questions in one, but the transition from the 9-to-5 mentality. Melissa, I want you to talk about that because you spent many more years in the corporate world than I did.
I did. So a lot of what you said is absolutely, like everything you said was correct, because you have a little bit of a safety net of it's decision, but they're not often your decisions. They're team decisions. And you're like, I'm just a part of the team that's making this decision. Versus when it's your business, you have to say, yep, I am going to make this decision, and I'm petrified because I'm not sure if it's the right decision or the wrong decision, and I'm not sure that I have anyone to talk to about it.
That's we don't even realize that.
No.
We have always had that decision-making tree that included other people.
Or you have the ability to go to a coworker and be like, hey, I have this idea. Is this a crazy idea, a good idea, a bad idea? Like, what should I be thinking about? And so when you're on your own, and I want to remind everyone, you have a group here, the reason you're in this group is because we have, like, there are very few things that we have not seen. But when you are moving from a 9-to-5 job, it really does, like, sometimes entrepreneurship can feel very lonely. And so making sure that you have people to reach out to and understand that you are alone, but you're not really alone, I think is really critical. But kind of to what I said earlier, when you do work in, any sort of a 9-to-5 job, you're able to shut off your work at some point. Even though I know today with cell phones and everything else, like, everyone feels like their job is kind of all the time. But I think when you're running your own business, it's very easy to say, like, oh, it's Saturday night at 8 o'clock. I should be working. I should be creating social media. I should be, working on getting clients. Like, you feel like you have to work all the time. And that is an excellent recipe for burnout. Yes. Excellent. And I had for years, even in my corporate job, I had a home office. And what I would find is I had to physically shut the door at a certain point to that office, because otherwise even in that job, would feel like, oh, I should be doing emails right now. I should be doing that. No, you're allowed to just sit on the couch and watch Project Runway if you want to. So it's really setting those boundaries of, okay, and it's setting boundaries multiple ways. And here's the other thing. It's also easy not to do anything at all. So it is really easy to just be like, I think I'm just not going to do anything today. And so what I have told people before is, especially if you're starting your business, pretend that you have a client, pretend you have a client session. And for 3 hours that you would be spending at a client, or 6, or whatever time you spend with clients, work on your business during that client session. And then you can shut it off and put it away. But it's like a discipline that you have to set up with yourself. So it's setting boundaries, both the positive direction and the negative direction, if that makes sense.
Yes, that is exactly the advice that I give in Module 7 about projects and time management, is essentially create a schedule for you and yourself, because everybody's different. Like, what are my time blocks during the week that I can even have a session that I could, whether you're there 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, doesn't matter. And then when you whether you're full-time in your business or not, when you keep those appointments with yourself just like you would if you had a client, and you go and you do what, like, say this is a marketing block of time, or this is a website work block of time, or research, whatever. When we got this question about the 9-to-5 mentality, the thing that jumped out at me was about the time. There is a bookend on that time. And now the word mentality might mean many other things about the corporate world. And like we were saying, it's like a loaded question, but first and foremost, that your time management and how you schedule whatever you like to use to do that, I think is the most vital thing to, one, feeling in control of how you're spending your time, and 2, having a bookend where, like, you can clock out and say, I've done my job today. I checked off my most important things. That is critical. And then, yes. And then to circle back on the second part of the question, running a business alone, it's a beautiful thing to not be alone and to have this group to have people to bounce things off of. And if you're the one doing, wearing all the hats as a solopreneur, then having somebody else to kind of help you, have an accountability partner and say, I'm setting my priorities. I want to put this out there to somebody that will know if I didn't do it, which that's the other benefit of working in a team environment. Like, in the corporate world, is like, hey, I can't just not do my job. So, and that accountability thing is good, because in a corporate environment, you're going to have, in any environment, by the way, we're just using the word corporate. It can be any job you have, but you probably have quarterly reviews with your boss. Yes. You have, and I make jokes about, like, I'm having a review with my boss and boy, she's really mean, and whatever. I make all those jokes in my own house, right? But not me. I know about myself. Yeah, that was a really good clarification. Jenna's so mean. But you don't have those same check-in points, and so then you don't have any time-based, deadline-based things. So you could say, if you wanted to, you could take a year to build your website. Well, you could also take 3 weeks to build your website and get something out there. And so setting deadlines for yourself and being accountable to those deadlines, because otherwise you could cycle on the same thing over and over again, get analysis paralysis, and then never launch your business, or never launch your new product, or never launch your new service, or whatever. Completely true. And I just have a little comment to make. I think that the reason why most people quote unquote, most people will never even think about venturing out on their own and will always work in a corporate job. And I am not saying this is a negative thing. I'm just saying that the majority of people can't or don't want to have that level of self-discipline over their own time, because it is vastly easier to have somebody else set your schedule and to be like, oh, well, I got to show up for that. Like I'm the same way with myself, like still today. If it's an appointment with just me, I always deprioritize it, but I will never let somebody else down, like
Sure.
that is on my planner.
Right.
And so, you guys are an extra special group of entrepreneurs in that you don't have to be a time management like guru in order to do this business, but you have to at least be organized enough to like want to organize other people. So it's not just an assumption that like we make that like every organizer is great at managing their time, but it is something that you can apply your organizing skills to your calendar and to the way that you set appointments with yourself, and really like you get to reap the benefits because it's your business and you get to control what those parameters are. Like I won't be on social media after 8 p.m., not be with my family. And it's like nobody's requiring you to do those things. So you're not doing your job by setting some boundaries with your time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So be a good boss to yourself.
Yes. Be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Don't report yourself to HR. But hot take too, when you do what Jen is talking about, and when you start to set those rules and those boundaries and priorities, you also can teach your clients those things. I have had very few clients that don't come to me and say, I can't keep my kitchen clean. And then I give them the tools that I use in my own house as to what I do. And I am like, I do a 10-minute routine before I go to bed and blah, 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 blah. Like when you set those things up in your own life, you're able to teach your clients that. It's efficiency in teaching clients like how to develop habits to keep their house up, and all of those things are really important. That really goes back to that concept of like living your business, like living out that identity as a professional organizer. I talk about that a lot in the course, like inspired organizer. Like this isn't just my job. This is something that I do. Like I am this person. Yeah. So I think that's something that like on a personal note really helps with not only transitioning from a 9-to-5 job, but also like thinking about self-care the new year and blocking out that time, really like honoring those appointments with yourself is going to keep you from feeling like you're losing your mind. Yeah, when you have so many different things going on. Kim's question is, she says, as I continue to enter into my career and overcome all the challenges, I began to worry about getting consistent business. I came right out of the chute with some low-hanging fruit, which was great and exciting. I've started to shift my thinking to focusing on business goals instead of worrying about where the business will come from. Is this thinking backwards? No, I think that's awesome, Kim. And I wonder too, like, this is sort of a coaching moment. How did you make that shift? How did you do that? Like, how did you make that shift from thinking, like, focusing on business goals or what you want to just like a general worry? Because that's critical. I mean, that whatever you did to get yourself refocused and feeling energized instead of feeling worried, that's like a magic pill essentially for entrepreneurship, because there's plenty of things we could worry about literally all day long. You could let ourselves constantly.
Yeah. And here's the other thing is focusing on what went right with your clients so far. I'm not sure, Kim, exactly when you started your business. You know,
Extraordinarily recently.
Oh, okay.
Like 4 seconds ago.
Oh, okay. Well,
So yeah, she already has people.
that's great.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah. What worked? Like, where did that low-hanging fruit come from? Is there a little more over there? Like, what do you like about these clients? Do you want to find more clients that are just like this one particular one you've had? Like, think about what is working and think about how to reverse engineer more of that. That's essentially the entire business model for any business is, don't try to solve every problem in the world, but instead of worrying about getting consistent clients, thinking about what do you do best, what do you enjoy most, what gives you energy instead of draining you, and keep going in that direction.
I also feel like turning worry and like turning anxiety into something productive is something that I try to do for myself, and it's something I try to coach people on, because turning that anxiety into like, okay, what am I worrying about, and starting to peel back those layers of like, okay, I'm worried about having consistent business, but I have to worry about like, do I have my foundation built right? You know, do I have my foundation pieces in place for success? And then am I building from that foundation of stone? And so okay, if the answer to that is not quite yet, maybe that's where the anxieties come from. So I need to go take action on those things. And I need to spend 3 hours working on whatever that foundation is. So when you create that foundation, then the clients are going to come from doing that work. Just worrying about where clients are going to come from and then not actioning on that is a recipe for challenge.
That is funny though, because when she replied back and said 3 sleepless nights in a row, I think she said that was the catalyst for switching her method of thinking. Because 3 sleepless nights doesn't make clients come, but I think what it did was it made you realize I can't live like this, right? And that your mentality is literally everything, and everything that you can do to shift yourself in the direction of what you want instead of all the things that you don't want to have is a really good thing, and it will help you sleep at night, I promise.
And concentrating on what is important to you in your business. And like Jen said, you have already gotten some clients. So how do we replicate that success? Are those clients happy? Will they refer you to other people? Starting a referral network right out of the bat and having people start to recommend you to their friends on that. Some of that networking you can start even before you have some of your other pieces in place. So concentrating on what your goals are, and it is, I want to work with 3 clients a week, or I want to make $10,000 in 3 months, whatever that looks like concentrating on those high level goals and then reverse engineering and going, how do I get there?
Yes. I love that. Okay, good. Kim, I hope that helps. That was a really, really great question, actually. It was not asked backwards.
No, Kim is doing awesome work. And but when you start out, it's like, I started my business from nothing.
Yeah.
We all started our businesses from nothing.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, this is kind of scary.
And every single person who is doing this was in the same position once. So don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 12.
Yeah.
So just know you are in good company, and we're all, not just been through it, but still there's always new levels to go through, just like this. Go back to what Melissa said. We're all kind of making it up as we go, but we're learning and tweaking as we go too. We're not just like literally flying by the seat of our pants all the time.
Yes.
Even though it might look like that.
All right. Just really quickly, I'm gonna add on. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they were talking about the sales cycles, right? Like sometimes you have peaks and sometimes you have valleys. Sometimes you have, I remember there were days that I was working 7 days a week with organizing clients, and in one case 3 clients a day in my very busiest month that I ever had. And so in months like that, when you're like, oh my gosh, I am killing it, everything is amazing.
Yeah, I'm making
so much money. You also have to prepare for the fact that sometimes there are going to be valleys, and making sure that you're still doing client acquisition things, even in your most busy times. So the most busy time is the time that you're like, I don't have time to go look for new clients, but then you have to keep kind of that sales funnel going and making sure you're still doing the right things to get those clients in, so that you can level out those peaks and valleys a little bit.
And I think too that doing amazing work and being present to the clients that you do have is a big part of how you get referrals, which are the best marketing anyway. So I don't think it's something that I would never say it's not worth, losing sleep over, but focusing and doing the best job you can do with what you have, the cards that you have today, is going to open more doors for you in the future. And I know you might sometimes feel like, hey, actually being with the client is, not doing those other things I need to be doing because you feel like you're really busy and you're really slammed. But you have to remember that the experience that you're giving them should be one that is calming to them and bringing them, a lot of peace. And that is going to be an experience that they will talk about and share with other people just like them.
Always pretending they're your only client.
Yeah.
And making them feel like super special.
Yes, but not letting them text you, or they're not responding to every text. It's like, set aside a time where you're like, this would be when to expect to hear from me. Kathleen says, it's so weird to go from only watching older podcasts to getting live answers. She says it's surreal. And she says we're funny. Yeah.
That's a pretty major goal in life. People laugh.
Well, you do such a good job of that. But you are very supportive as well. You are a blessing to the podcast as a permanent fixture and as a part of this group.
I legit love helping people. That's not I legit love it.
Oh, I know.
I love helping my clients. I love them.
That's why you have a lot of wisdom. 100%.
So
Kim said, I feel like I need to move fast at each of my jobs, and I feel guilty because it's on their dime. And, She said it's something you need to overcome. I think just remembering that the goal of every client is not for you to move as fast as possible.
Correct.
I learned that. That was one of my hard lessons learned. I had a client who scolded me. And that was the day that I learned I wasn't paying attention to her cues emotionally. And I didn't know that she wanted everything just like take the turn and think it just right. Because I was like, there's anything else to do. Yeah. But that, it's an experience thing. And also it's a checking in specifically with each client to kind of say, how are we doing? Are we moving too fast? Are we going too slow? And sometimes at different parts of the project, you might have a client who's been like zoom, ready to go. And all of a sudden the next time you come, you notice something's a little off. I think that's a great question to ask them is like, how's your energy today? Like, are you feeling good about, the progress we're making? And, Kim, that if somebody had wanted to come and blitz it all and get done in a day, they would have called the 10-person moving team or organizing team or whatever that was just going to basically come in and almost in a clean sweep,
Yeah.
that show?
Yes, I do.
It's like my favorite one. Out of all the organizing shows, I most like to clean sweep because I don't know why. I think it's because I made so much progress.
But on the speed thing, Jen's point, which is what I think 100% one of the most important things you have to do as an organizer is be super in tune to what people are giving you and paying attention to their cues. Like I remember I had one client one time that was like legit having an anxiety attack during her session, was sweating, was like, and so a client like that, you have to really be paying attention to, she doesn't want us to go super fast. Like that's stressful for her. So not every client wants it. And also one of the things that I had to get over, Kim, is I think this is a huge investment of money. And so I'm like, I want to make sure you're getting every penny of your time. Not every client cares about that.
They don't.
I cared about that more than the client cared about it. Mm-hmm. So it's not to say that you want to just sit down in their living room and just like watch Netflix with them. But by the way, I've done that with clients. Some clients just want you to be the friend.
They really wanted to. Oh, yes. And
yeah. But you also can say like, hey, we need to do this at the speed that works for the client, and that speed might not be back for it.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. For a lot of people, it's like we talk about in the program, it's a luxury experience. When you go and get a massage, I don't want the massage therapist to be like, okay, I'm going to like relax you as quickly as possible. It's like, no, they're putting them there for the energy. And if you are not bringing a peaceful and organized energy to their chaos, then really you're just adding to the chaos. And that's not helpful. And that's not what they need. So if you are that sort of like type A, boom, 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 we need to be productive. We need to be efficient with like every second. Know that about yourself and realize that that is not the best match for every single person. Not like clearly they're not calling you because that is their favorite way to be either. So what they need is sort of like that balance. What you don't need to add to the situation is more stress about time because they probably are already hard enough on themselves. And so it's urgency. It's moving with urgency, but not frenzy, right?
And pushing at the right time. So the client that is saying, let's just chat, might be avoiding starting the work. So read out their cues and then saying like, hey, let's go sit here. Let's go chat in your closet while we go through some clothing or whatever. Like knowing when it is time to push and say like, hey, let's get something done today. But hot take too, if a client could do this themselves, they wouldn't have hired you. And you, even at what you and I might determine to be a slow speed, might be pretty faster than they could do themselves. Because almost everyone I work with is like, yeah, I tried to do this on my own. And then after 5 minutes, I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. So if you give them 3 hours of your time and then they work with you, and then so it's like 6 hours, they've gotten 200 times more done than they would have gotten done on their own.
For sure. And it might just be something that you said or just casually did while you were there that makes a huge difference for them. It might not be the speed literally at which you pull everything out, put things in garbage bags, got everything back in. It's like that might not be what was the life-changing moment. It might have just been like the casual way you were talking about, Melissa was like, yeah, share tips about how I keep my kitchen in the way that she's just like, I just always have this routine that stays with that client like for the rest of their life. Like that's huge.
Yep. Yes.
This has been a fantastic conversation, by the way, and really good way to hang out with you guys a little bit while we're working.
So anyway, 2022 is going to be great.
Wherever you guys are in the world, thank you for tuning in. We really enjoyed being here, and
take care of yourselves.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much for listening in to the Pro Organizer Studio podcast. If you'd like to get our roadmap for success as a pro organizer, head straight to www.poroadmap.com.